Okay, so I mean, first of all, what I want to do is say to everybody to thank Anna for getting up early and being prepared to give a talk at 9 o'clock in the morning, which is, well, it would be a struggle for me. So I hope it's not a struggle for you, Anna. So Anna's going to talk to us a little bit today about some of the research, the barley breeding and genetics research that they've been conducting in, would you call it Western Canada? Is Manitoba Western Canada?
Western Canada, but I will touch a little bit on Eastern Canada just so we don't leave out our colleagues.
Okay, so yeah, and you can see the title of our presentation on the screen just now: Canadian Barley, Public Breeding Programs, Cultivar Registration System, and Market Development of Malting Barley Cultivars. I understand that the majority of the Canadian barley is actually produced in Manitoba and Alberta in the western side of the country. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say, Anna. Let's see if breeding in Canada is any different from breeding in the UK. Or in Europe, I should say. Over to you.
Thank you, Robbie, very much. And thank you to the International Barley Hub for putting together these seminars and giving an opportunity to share what we are doing across the pond. So I hope you can hear me well. So as Robbie said, we will try to give an overview of the Canadian public breeding in Canada, as well as I will try to touch a little bit on the registration system in Western Canada with examples, with specific examples for malting barley. And also, I will try to cover a little bit another step in the release of barley cultivars, which is market development. I want to apologize in advance. This presentation doesn't want to be a comprehensive one or exhaustive. It's just if some people hears cultivars institutions were left out, is not because it was intentional or nor because of lack of relevance. It's just sometimes based on time and the way of the structure of the presentation. So I want this to be, or I would say we want to be, because the presentation was put together along with my colleagues listed here. Dr. Aaron Beatty, Dr. Flavio Capetini, Dr. Iadeta Cabeta, Rosa Canal, Duan Paul, Marta Isodorfik, Yershuli, Dina Feist, and Peter Watts. So what we wanted to be for this presentation is to be a point of discussion. So we are looking forward to the Q&A session of the seminar, and I'm sure my Canadian colleagues like Flavio and probably others join are also looking forward to this discussion. So without this, I would, before talking about the public breeding programs, I would just put things on the map. Like Robbie said, we are, Canada is sort of a part of, when we talk about Canada from the barley point of view, we talk about Eastern Canada and we talk about Western Canada with the prairies provinces, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, being where the majority of the barley production happens. As you could see, I posted some purple pins that are located approximately where the public breeding are located. And then we will go from east to west when we will discuss about them. So, but before talking about the breeding programs, again, to give you a quick background, I would like to talk about the Canadian barley history, as well as what Canadian barley represents today from economic point of view for Canada. So the history goes back to 1578, when there were the first, we could find writings that place barley as being tested in cultivation in Newfoundland. Later on in 1763, barley varieties, the two raw barley varieties, Thorpe and Chevalier, were brought by British immigrants and grown through the 19th century. Between 1815 and 1890, significant malting barley was exported from Ontario to US. However, this came to a rest when, due to the protectionist import tariffs. During the 1880 and 1916, the Ontario growers moved to Western Canada, mainly to grow wheat, but also barley. Around that time, the Ontario Agricultural College, also known as OAC, today the Guelph University, releases OAC 21, but I will talk a little bit more about this variety later. In 1948, the Brewing and Malting Barley Research Institute is created. This is still functioning today. And I will talk a little bit more about BMBRI in the second part of the presentation, when we will discuss about the registration process. So we will touch a little bit on BMBRI's role as well, what is BMBRI and its role in the registration process. During the 50s and 60s, the Canadian six-row barley becomes known, and in the 70s, Bonanza, it is released. This variety was the last commercially successfully grown blue Aleuron type malting. In the 80s, there is a big shift towards the two-row malting barley. This happened with the release of the Harrington. And during this year, Harrington is in major commercial production. Again, I will not talk now about Harrington, but later on when I will discuss about the Crop Development Center breeding program where the Harrington was developed. During the 1997, or I should say in 1997, AC Metcalf was released, and in 1998, CBC Copton. These two row varieties are also played an important role, and Copton continues to play an important role for the Canadian malting barley. 2000, year 2000, is the year when Canadian Malting Barley Technical Center is established. And again, I'm not going to talk now about CMBTC, but in the third part of the seminar, which will cover market development. 2004, Barley Development Council, followed in 2013 by the Barley Council of Canada, and in 2020, the Canadian Barley Research Coalition is created. Again, later on, I will talk about CBRC as it plays important role in the research direction for barley as well as funding. 2021, the first Canadian barley reference genome is assembled. Here you could see a few pictures of the early days of barley in Canada. As promised, a quick overview of the economical importance of Canadian barley. But before that, I just want to say that when we talk about Canadian barley, mainly we discuss about spring barley, and lately more and more about two-row barley. As Robbie said, the majority of barley is produced in Western Canada, more than 90%, with a smaller portion in Eastern Canada. Each year, more than 2 million tons of malting barley is purchased from the farmers, and Canadian maltsters buy about 50% of the malting for the production of malt. The Canadian malt is used both within Canada as well as internationally. In the sales, when it comes to sales related to beer, for example, we discussed about around almost $6 billion in provincial and federal taxes. And we also talk about 1 in 149 jobs being in the brewing industry. Also, the brewing industry plays an important role with the contribution toward the Canadian economy of 13.6 billion. So just to put things in perspective, Canada is the 4th largest barley exporter in the world and the 2nd largest malt exporter. The majority of barley, it is exported, around 65% of the barley it is exported. The rest is used domestically. And the main countries that we are exporting our barley is US, Japan, South Korea, and Mexico. When it comes to malting barley, the majority of the exports go to China, followed by US and Japan. So now I would like to discuss about the public breeding programs. And as I promised, we will touch a little bit on the programs in Eastern Canada, as well as those based in Western Canada. Here I'm sharing few photos of OOC building, the old Ontario Agricultural College, as well as the new building of the University of Guelph. Dr. Dwayne Falk, that you could see in this photo, is the college professor emeritus. During his career, Dwayne focused on breeding methodology and, more important, in the application of theory to solve practical issues. For example, in his breeding program, Dwayne used the recurrent in progressive population enrichment, also known as RIPE. This method helped him to develop numerous cultivars with superior quality or yield for the benefit of the Ontario producers. The focus of the barley breeding program at UOD evolved through the years. It was focusing on 6-row spring feed barley, and then evolved toward 2-row spring malting and winter barley. As I said, the majority of barley in Canada is spring. However, a small area, there is some winter barley being grown, with Ontario being one of those regions, and more recently also in British Columbia, in BC, and I know even Flavio ventured and tried it in Alberta. So the breeding objectives of the program are higher yield, better lodging resistance, with a focus on high straw yield, and of course, better disease resistant package for those humid environments in Ontario. Thus, Dwayne's work was focusing on diseases such as powder mildew, leaf diseases, as well as, nevertheless, Fusarium head lice is a major barley disease that causes devastating losses. So I also promised that I would touch on the OOC 21, and here you could see a few photos for it. The story starts with Charles Zavis. He was a breeder at OOC, and he started to look for the best barley worldwide. So when together with his colleagues, when they looked in their field, they found on row 21, and the selection was made on lodging and yield, what became the plants of what became OAC 21, hence the name. This variety was introduced in 1910 to Ontario farmers and became the principal variety grown in Ontario and stayed in that way for more than 50 years. Also, this variety is known as the granddad of malting barley. By the 1960s, OAC 21, unfortunately, like any barley variety, could not keep up with the needs, so it was replaced. However, were made by Duane to bring this heritage variety back. So you could see Duane enjoying light and refreshing beer, I believe, because this is what he told us, of OAC 21 beer. And if you come to Canada and happens to visit Ontario, make sure to stop by Muddy York Brewing Company so you could enjoy this refreshing beer. Continuing to be in Ontario, but this time in Ottawa, I will give a quick overview of the barley breeding program at Ottawa, at Agriculture and Agri-Food, Ottawa Research and Development Center. Here are a few photos of the main building there, as well as I'm very pleased to tell you that this year, our colleagues have celebrated 100 years of barley breeding in Ottawa. Currently, the breeder there is my colleague, Dr. Raja Kanal, and his efforts in breeding are supported by Dr. Wubi Bikeli. Some of you know him very well, as he spent some time in Europe and could continue to be an active participant in the international genomics community. So Wubi is supporting Raja with the genomic side, and they try together to move the needle for barley in Eastern Canada. Before, I also want to mention Dr. Alex Chu. He was the previous breeder. He retired in 2017 before and shortly after Raja joined the program. In his work, Alec, he focused on 6-row feed and hullers for food. For Alec, the main focus was on diseases, especially Fusarium head blight. He was able to develop varieties with improved resistance to Fusarium head blight, such as Island, AC Azimuth, or AC Starbuck. The current focus of the breeding program led by Raja is 6-row for feed, row and 6-row hullers for food, but also he started steps towards developing 2-row malting barley for the Eastern Canada conditions. In terms of breeding objectives, like all of us, Raja is focusing on higher yield, continues to the efforts towards FHB tolerance, improved lodging resistance and superior quality for the different uses of the barley that he is developing. Before concluding the part related to the AFC Ottawa breeding program, I just want to highlight some of the cultivars developed by the program in the recent years and tell you a short story about the AAC Ling. AAC Ling is a high-yielding 2-row feed barley with superior disease resistance. The variety was named in honor of late Alan Ling. Alan was, unfortunately, he passed away in 2018, and he was the founding chair of the Atlantic Grains Council. In this photo, you could see Melvin, Allen brothers. Alan and Melvin, they farmed together, and A. seedling was seeded by Melvin last year in their farm, not very far from Alan's house. A little bit about the program at Brandon, where I am based. So the barley breeding program is based in Brandon, Manitoba, about 2 hours from Winnipeg. As you see, we have beautiful surroundings and excellent building. It looks like a cruise ship to me. So this is like, we really enjoy it. Building. Also in 2018, the barley breeding program moved to a new house. This is the barley building. It's a little bit higher than the main building, but in the same location. And this is an overview of the fields around the center. So we are quite fortunate to have good land around the center. However, we do have off-sites. We travel a little bit through the crop season at different sites where we grow our breeding material. I started here in 2012, and I am currently in my work helped by my colleague, Dr. James Tucker. He is a barley genomics pathologist. James is running not one, but 3 disease nurseries. So our program has a strong focus on disease in development of varieties with inbuilt resistance to diseases. The disease nurseries that James runs are leaf diseases, stem rust, and of course, the main nursery for Fusarium head blight is based here and run by James. So as a breeder, I'm quite fortunate to be able to have right in our backyard those disease nurseries to make the selection. A little bit about the more far away past as well as more recent past of the breeding program at the center. I want to soon, as our colleagues in Ottawa, we will also celebrate 100 years, and we are looking forward to that. This will be, and that will be in 2024. So we do have quite a long history here, and the barley breeding was very important for the region. Among the barley breeders at the center, I just, due to time constraints, I will refer only, highlight a few of them. Dr. Walter Johnstone, he was a breeder here at the center between 1936 and 1971. Dr. Johnstone released more than 6 barley varieties, such as Plush, Parkland, and Bonanza. Remember, I did mention about Bonanza. All those varieties together generated more than 200 millions of additional farm income. Also of note is Dr. Dick Metcalf. Dr. Metcalf, he was based for a while in Brandon, and then he was transferred to Winnipeg. Regardless, he continued to focus and work in the beginning with Dr. Johnstone to develop varieties with inbuilt resistance to diseases. Dr. Mario Terrien, he was responsible for several barley classes, 6-row feed forage, 6-row malting, 2-row hullers for food, as well as hullers for feed and forage. Among the successful cultivars that he registered are Virden, AC Rosser, and AC Ranger, with all of those have greatly contributed to the prosperity of Canadian livestock producers. Dr. Bill Legg, he joined the barley breeding program at the center in 1987, and he retired in 2017. So he was a successful breeder here for more than 30 years. Among the varieties, during his career, he developed more than 1,000 of barley cultivars. He focused mainly on two-row type for malting, with also a small effort towards feed. Among the varieties that Bill developed, I want to discuss, as I promised, about AAC Metcalf. AAC Metcalf was released in 1997. It was named in honor of Dr. Dick Metcalf, and it is a two-row malting barley that played a significant role in the Canadian barley and Canadian economy. This variety was named in 2010 Seed of the Year West. This award is a very prestigious award, and it's not only for it's not given only from the barley cultivars. All the public breeding varieties released for any crop in Canada. So it received this award, and based on the significant impact that the variety had. For example, when a quick estimation was made over the 10 years from 2003 to 2013, AC Metcalf generated a total farm gate value of more than $6 billion. The current breeding objectives at the program are also, as those of my colleagues, high yield, disease resistance. As I mentioned, we place a very strong focus on Fusarium head blight and multiple disease resistance. So we believe that in yield resistance, it protects the yield, it protects the quality, and is more environmental friendly. Also, a strong focus is on improved quality. The classes that the program is focusing currently, we did have a restructuring in 2018, shortly after Dr. Bill Legg retired. So currently, the program that I'm leading focuses on two-row malting, two-row feed, and two-row hullers for food. The majority of the effort is, of course, towards two-row malting. Here, I put some photos to show you the various activities that the program does. And as sometimes we get questions from the farmers, what do you do during winter? We keep it quite busy because there are lots and lots of tests and analysis that need to be done during the winter, either closely to the warehouse, where we look at test weight, kernel weight, and tests related to the barley grain. Also malting, analysis for malting, and testing with the molecular markers. Bringing things more into nowadays, here are a list of the varieties released by the program in the past 10 years. Of note is AAC Synergy, and we will talk a little bit about AAC Synergy later, as well as AAC Connect. AAC Synergy is a high-yielding variety. It has 13% higher yield than AAC Metcalf. It has an excellent leaf disease resistance with spot blotch resistance. And interestingly enough, the malt quality depends how it's handled, could be used either for the main industry or by craft brewers. AAC Connect, we are very proud of this variety as well, as it's a product of the FHB nursery efforts. It is a variety that has the rating MR for FHB. This is the higher rating for a variety in barley. Also, the variety has good yield, and the malting profile is in between AC Metcalf and CBC Copeland. The newest malting variety from our program is AC Prairie. It was named based on the location. Um, uh, and this variety is a high enzyme variety. From our point of view here at the program, we see it as in our portfolio as a replacement for AC Metcalf, which was also a high enzyme malting part. We continue our journey to the prairies. We moved into Saskatchewan, and here you could see Dr. Aaron Beatty in the field, happily taking notes in his barley. I think as breeders, this is how we just leave us in the field, that we are always good. So also there was a big celebration for the centers, 50 years of successful growing the future of Saskatchewan and Canada. The Crop Development Center hosts other breeding programs, not only the barley breeding program. But of course, we will talk about what Aaron is doing there. But before that, we cannot talk about Dr. Brian Harvey or Brian Rosmega. So Dr. Brian Harvey started his work in he joined the University of Saskatchewan in 1966. Dr. Harvey, he quickly became a professor with the university, but he never left off sight his breeding activities. His efforts were, I mentioned, I will talk about Harrington. So when we talk about Dr. Brian Harvey, of course, we talk about Harrington. Harrington, it was released in 1981. It was named after Dr. Harrington, that was a breeder at the University of Saskatchewan. And what Harrington is, or was the first Canadian bred malting barley. This was a cultivar that made a shift from 6-row to 2-row. It created a new standard for high enzyme malting. It dominated the acreage in both Canada and US, and remained as a primarily cultivar for more than 20 years, being grown over 60 million acres. And when the estimated value was put together, it came to more than $15 billion. Harrington was followed, like I said, by AC Metcalf and CDC Copeland. CDC Copeland was released jointly by Dr. Harvey and Rosmedal in 1999. This is also an excellent brewing malting varieties, and for that is still a dominant variety in Canadian barley acres. Both Harrington and CDC Copeland received the Seed of the Year honors. Harrington received the award in 2009, and CDC Copeland in 2019 as to highlight their importance in the seed industry and the crop production in Canada. You could see Dr. Harvey here. For his significant contribution, he received the Order of Canada and the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal, as you could see. So it's prestigious awards for his significant contribution and breeding efforts. Continue to talk about the Crop Development Center breeding program. the current focus of the program is on two-row malting, two-row feed and forage, two-row hullers for food, and two-row hullers malting. Aaron is focusing on higher yield, improved lodging resistance with significant efforts also in research conducted recently. Disease resistance. Aaron also has several disease nurseries and collaboratively with the conduct testing. And I should say all the breeders, either from Eastern or Western Canada, work collaboratively. We exchange tries for yield production. We do testing in the nurseries that we have, and so on and so forth. It's a very collaborative work. And of course, Aaron focuses on improved quality. It depends on the end use of the barley that he is developing. Among the cultivars that were recently released by Aaron, CDC Bow and CDC Fraser. You could see them here grown side by side. This is the license holder. And interestingly, both of the varieties were named based on rivers. Bow is a river in Alberta and Fraser in BC. The CDC Fraser has a very good yield, good disease resistance, and is also a variety with good high enzyme for malting. So it is intended for the mainstream industry. However, Aaron's effort also were successful with the development of CDC Churchill, which is intended for craft malt quality. Here is a photo of beer made solely of malt from CDC Fraser that was brewed this summer. And when I visited Saskatchewan this year, I had the great opportunity to enjoy it. Thank you, Aaron, for that. Now we move towards Alberta. FCDC or Field Crop Development Center there is based in Lacombe, also has a long history, more than 50 years. 1973 is when the program was established. Each year, the breeding program conducts excellent field days. I was not able to attend the field day, however, I was able to see the videos they prepared and shared. It's an excellent school day, barley school day, when people could be immersed and to understand what barley breeding means right on, right there, and also enjoy the product, as you will see. So the current barley breeders there are Dr. Flavio Capettini and Dr. Yadeta Cabeta. And I will talk a little bit about their current effort. But before that, as you see the pattern, we talk a little bit about tasks. And when we talk about FCDC, we talk about Dr. Jim Helm. Jim was there for 40 years, and he developed just for barley 32 barley varieties. As CDC, FCDC also breeds different crops, for example, triticale and wheat. Under Jim's leadership, the FCDC grew into a world-class cereal breeding facility. Jim retired in 2014, and in 2013, Flavio joined, and he became the head of the department there. Jim also received numerous awards. He was inducted into the Alberta Agricultural Hall of Fame, and also it received the Distinguished Service Award from American Society of Agronomy, just to name a few, because the list is quite long, so I will stop here. But I think you got the picture. Also, Dr. Joseph Nachiro and Pat Giusto have also contributed significantly to the success of Field Crop Development Center. Numerous barley varieties for different barley classes were released with a mist, for example, for 6-row feed or low, with the name stands for the fact that the deoxynivalenol, which is a mycotoxin developed by Fusarium head blight, is low in this variety. And it's a 2-row malt. Again, this is the license folder, and you could see the nice plants of low. The current barley classes, or I should have said that, like while FCBC is based in Lacombe and belongs to the provincial Alberta Agriculture Ministry, in 2021 they made the move to Olds College. And with that, there was a transformation process, and now the barley classes that the programs there are focusing on are 2-row, 6-row forage, 2-row, 6-row feed, and 2-row malting. Their focus is on class, like for example, the 2-row, the 2-row and 6-row forage and feed are in charge of those classes is Dr. Yadeta Kabeta. He aims for developing forage varieties with enhanced quality and improved forage yield. Also, he focuses on other agronomic traits such as lodging, resistance, early maturity, and of course, resistance to multiple diseases, with scald being a high priority disease and a focus for Alberta. The objective of the malting program led by Dr. Capetini is to develop varieties of 2-row malting barley with good malting characteristics that are desired by the marketplace. Of course, high yields and good agronomic adaptation are foremost for Flavio's objectives. In addition, he focuses on disease resistance, lodging resistance. Flavio told me that this is something that is very important for their program. And nevertheless, abiotic stresses, low nitrogen, water, cold, and other environmental factors. As you could see, the program takes advantage of the contra-season nursery, and their winter nursery is based in California, and Flavio graciously shared with me a few photos of their material there. Among the cultivars that were more recently released by the program, I want to highlight PR14617. This is the first registered Canadian malting barley variety that is a non-glycosiding nitrate, shortly known as non-GN. I know, Robbie, for you guys that it's not a big deal, but for us it is. So kudos to FCBC group for registering the first non-GN variety. For those that do not know, the GN is a precursor to ethyl carbamate, which is a carcinogenic compound and is not desired. It forms during the malting and could be traces could be found in whiskey. So it's a big problem for the distillers. With the recent efforts towards this distilling and whiskey being developed in Canada, there was a need for such variety. Another variety that I would like to mention is AB Stems Well. This was developed by the Dr. Yadeta Kabeta. It's a new 6-row general purpose. And what is of note of this variety is the fact that it's a nitrogen efficient variety. Also, coupled with that is high yield and lodging resistance. AB Brunette is their new 2-row malting variety. It is a high grain yield variety. It's about a little bit higher than AAC Synergy, and it is MR, moderately resistant, rated for FHB, also has smut and scald. As you might recall, I did mention that scald is a problem in Alberta. So it's still like this variety has it all. And the beer made out of it, I could testify is very good because Flavio sent me their, you see, the beer they brewed this year, and they offered to their visitors during the field day. So he also sent it to me. But Flavio, I didn't get to say thank you. Thank you was very good. It was very refreshing after a full day in the field, in the sun, doing my ratings. Yes, this is A.B. Brunet. So that concludes our section, or the first part of the seminar, which was related to the public breeding program in Canada, both Eastern and Western Canada. Now, as I promised right in the beginning, I will tell you a little bit more about CBRC, about CMBTC, BMBRI, and so on. And I will try to touch a little bit more on the registration process, which is the second part of the presentation, and third part will be the market development. Before talking about the registration process, I want to mention CBRC. The Canadian Barley Research Coalition was created in 2020. Is a collaboration between the provincial barley commissions, Saskatchewan Barley Development Commission, Alberta Barley, and Manitoba Crop Alliance. However, their membership is open to other organizations and associations across Canada. So it's a national organization. Why is CBRC important? Because CBRC provides guidance when it comes to research for barley in Canada. Also provides the funding support, like in 2020, significant funding was provided to the program that I am leading, as well to Aaron's program. So CBRC releases information that keeps us, I mentioned, I was asked, what is the big challenge? So one of the big challenges for breeders is to do forecasts. What is the barley variety that will be needed in 10 years from now? Why 10 years? Because that's how long it takes to develop a barley variety. So having CBRC, it definitely helps us breeders to stay focused, to make sure that our breeding objectives are well aligned, and then we put all the efforts that we have towards traits that are important and relevant, not now, but down the road for our Canadian farmers. Also, we are supported at breeders by PGRC. PGRC is the Plunging Resources of Canada. It is a institution that is supported or funded, managed and funded by the Canadian government through Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. This is the building of AFC Saskatchewan Development Center, and interacts with bless you, and interacts with many world gene banks. As you see, this is a photo that was shared with us from their medium-term seed storage. So the gene bank has more than 100,000 accession for about, if I recall well, 1,000 botanical species. However, among those, 75% of those are wheat, barley, and oat. So for us, wheat, oat, and barley breeders, PGRC plays a very important role. Also, what is important then, they make those accession available to us as well as to barley researchers also across the world. But for us, it's important that the accession also have information. That information help us to make our selection, which one we should use for crop improvement. Also, I want to mention about Tugboat and what is Tugboat. Tugboat is a project in genomics. It's a 5 years and has Dr. Nick Pinker as the lead. You could see here a nice drawing that Nick put together to represent what Tugboat is. So they are trying, it's a project that is designed with breeders in mind, trying to help breeders to take advantage, to implement and take advantage of the genomics tools in their breeding program. So the project focuses on genomic selection, genotyping, and also reference genomes. I mentioned earlier about the first Canadian barley genome reference was done through the Tugboat. Also, through Tugboat, we were able to join the International Barley Consortium. Before, Canada did not participate. Now we have breeders and researchers that are part of this, and we are very happy for the collaboration, and it's an excellent opportunity. Now, the second part of the seminar, I said I would like to talk about the registration process. It differs from province to province, and there are different committees across Canada that are in charge with this. However, just to keep things in time, and like I said, it's not because of a lack of relevance, but just to give you an idea. I would discuss about the registration process in Western Canada. Also the players, the main players that are involved in this process. So pre-registration, here we talk about the breeding programs, we talk about the registration evaluation and the varietal registration itself. And the main players are the researchers, the breeders like myself, Aaron, Flavio, and BMBRI, and another institution that I will talk about it will be Canadian Grain Commission with its grain research laboratory. Once registration is done and the license holder was found for the variety undergoes the post-registration. And here we talk about malting barley. The variety will undergo pilot malting and brewing and commercial market testing. The main player here is CMBTC, together with the seed companies or the license holder, the malting companies, the brewing companies, as well as the grain handlers. Finally, if everything goes well and the variety holds its promise, and also if there is a need for that type of variety in the market space, the commercialization starts. So the production, marketing of malting barley and malt. Here, the seed companies, the malting companies, the grain handlers, and more important, the growers play a significant role. In the next few slides, I will talk about the registration process. But before that, who is BMBRI? BMBRI, as I said earlier, was established in 1948. It is funded by malting and brewing companies, but also receives inputs from seed company and the Provincial Growers Commission that I mentioned, Saskatchewan Barley Commission, Alberta Barley, and Manitoba Crop Alliance. So BMBRI gets involved in the registration process by conducting trials for malting purpose. This is done on behalf of Prairie Recommending Committee for Oat and Barley, shortly known as PRCOB, and we will talk about PRCOB a bit later. But before that, who is CGC-GRL? This is the Canadian Grain Commission, and with its laboratory, the Grain Research Laboratory. The manager there is Dr. Marta Izodorczyk. She is in charge not only of barley, but other grains as well. Among the focuses or the tasks that CGC is in charge with is also the evaluation of new varieties as part of the variety registration process. However, I could not talk about CGC without mentioning that is also the authority, has the authority to designate the class of grain for which new grain varieties are eligible. The CGC maintains this designation list, and this is for each classes. Here you could see an example for malting. The purpose of this variety designation list is to help producers and grain handlers identify which variety are eligible for a grade within a class. The Canadian grain industry uses the list to keep ineligible varieties from undetermining the quality of grain shipments and possibly those that could cause problems for end users. Another important role GRL plays by assessing the grain harvest quality and studying how grading factors affect end use properties. How this system or how this is done, here are some of the steps, but very briefly, the producers send in a voluntary sample of their harvest, and in return, they receive free unofficial Canadian Grain Commission grade. Data from these surveys is used to generate barley production and quality of Western Canadian malting barley reports. This could be found, if you have the curiosity, on the website, on the GRL website. So, who is PRCOB? Who is CFIA? PRCOB is one of the 4 independent recommending committees, a part of the Prairie Grain Development Committee, known as PGDC. PGDC is a forum for the exchange of information and that is related to the development of improved cultivars for Western Canada. PRCOB it is responsible for the testing, evaluation, and recommendation of barley and oat candidate cultivars for registration. Canada is authorized to set, in PRCOB, it is authorized by CFIA, by Canadian Food Inspection Agency, to set the requirements for testing and to specify the quality merits that are needed and that are important. So when we talk about that will be related to agronomy, diseases, and quality. Thus, the structure of PRCOB is in 3 different teams: the breeding and the agronomy and the barley agronomy evaluation team, barley breeding. I'm sorry. It's just not like I was the chair for this team for a while. So the breeding and agronomy evaluation team, the barley disease evaluation team, and the barley quality evaluation team. So each of those teams, individually, they assess the data that is generated in their individual meetings, and then after the deliberations are done within the teams, all the members of PRCOB, which belong to a broad range of industry stakeholders, they meet and they vote if a given breeding line is supported for registration or not. Besides, as I mentioned, besides the testing that is done by PRCOB, also for malting varieties, the BMBRI is conducting the Western Canadian Malting Barley Collaborative Trials. Those are also assessed by the quality team as well as the members at large, and the voting is conducted. Once the recommendations are made, the office in charge with the registration of the varieties is the Variety Registration Office with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. These registration are done based upon the recommendation from PRCOB. A little bit more details on how things are done. So currently there are 3 Western Canadian Barley Cooperative Registration Trials, one for feed and forage, one for hullers for food, and one for malting. However, in this schematic is more for the malting barley. So the variety, the breeders submits the data that was gathered for given lines that she feels are meritorious, and submits to the coordinator of the tribe. So the coordinator is selected from the PRCOB members and has to follow the rules established by PRCOB. The cooperators who runs these trials are voluntarily, and they could or not have varieties in the trials. So, as I said, the trials are run for 2 years. In case of malting barley, the testing, while the trials are run across Western Canada at multiple sites, in case of the malting co-op, probably more than 15 or 18 sites. There are also some sites, very few, as observation ground in Eastern Canada. So out of those multiple sites, based on assessment of the grain quality, 3 sites are selected for micro-malting. The 2 sites are micro-malted by GRL, and 1 site by the industry. So once that is done, the data is presented to the quality and PRCOB, and decisions will be made. The selected malting barley are then entered or eligible to be entered in the collaborative trials. The collaborative trials runs for 2 years, and as I said, is conducted by BMBRI on behalf of PRCOB, with the test coordinator being the director, the executive director, which you saw now is Ms. Regina Feist. So these collaborative trials are run at 7 sites across the prairies, and the testing is, again, the material is assessed first at grain level, and then they are malted. Usually GRL malts 1 station using their pilot malt plan, and industry lab malt other 4 or 5 stations, depends from a year to a year. one important thing is either at the cooperative trials or the collaborative trials, full malt analysis are performed. All this data from the cooperative trials, from the collaborative trials are put together. The breeder will have an opportunity to present during the annual meeting of PRCOB the data for a variety that she feels is meritorious and bringing forward for requesting support for registration. The voting members, first, this is discussed within each PRCOB team for merits, agronomy, the diseases, they talk about the diseases, the quality talks about quality. There is voting within each teams, and if a variety passes full passing from all three teams, then it's automatically supported for registration. If doesn't, then when all the members are meeting, there is a discussion. The breeder has an opportunity again to defend the variety and why she feels that is meritorious and needs to receive support for registration, and then a voting will be cast. Once the varieties are supported, then the breeder will be able to provide documentation and submit requests for registration to Variety Registration Office. I don't want to talk too much, but just to give you an idea of what are the malting traits that are used for assessment during the call, and what are the malting quality guidelines that BMBRI recommends for breeders. This information is very useful for breeders as well as for those that are involved on the registration recommendation of the barley varieties. As you see, the current list includes malt brewing and distilling, junk brewing, and grain distilling. As I said, there is a movement towards this recently in Canada, and the list is reflecting just that. This part was, I hope it was not too complicated, but this is how the registration process of new varieties take place in Western Canada. So it is a very intensive process. It is very detailed to ensure that only the best varieties are brought forward to the benefit of Canadian growers and end users. So the journey doesn't stop here. As you remember, there were 3 steps, and I promised that I would talk about the registration and about the market development. When we talk about market development, it's impossible not to talk about CMBTC. A CMBTC is a unique institution in the world, as far as I know, and it was established in 2000. It has excellent staff that have expertise on malting as well as in brewing. And also they have state-of-the-art pilot malt and pilot brewery. They are, besides the market development that I mentioned, CMBTC wears different hats and has different other roles. It is involved in the annual crop quality assessment. It is involved in the quality evaluation of new Canadian malting barley varieties. It is involved in export cargo analysis. And also, if you need help, CMBTC is there to help troubleshoot any things that problems the end user might have. We talk about new variety acceptance. There are different steps that are taken by CMBTC, and for that, it starts first with the micro malting, and followed by pilot scale malting and brewing. So as I mentioned, while the malting varieties, and like I said, they will receive that designation from CGC, they are only tested for malting. The brewing is for the first time done by CMBTC. So after the variety was registered. So the CMBTC, just for your information, when we talk about micro malting, what are we referring at that is about 1 to kilogram. And when we talk about pilot scale, we talk about 50 kilograms. Each barley sample is evaluated for quality, protein germination, water sensitivity, RDA, etc. And then is pilot malted and brewed with full malting analysis. And brewing results are including the fermentation data. Sensory evaluation is also conducted, and I will show you an example for those new varieties. So based on all this data that is collected from the micro malting and pilot malting is put together for the new varieties, and CMBTC develops these technical sheets. This is, for example, for CBC Fraser. What is important about those, it's at a snapshot. You could see the strengths and the weaknesses of a new variety based on the intensive testing that was conducted by CMBTC. These technical sheets are translated in several languages: Chinese, Japanese, Spanish, and so on. And when the CMBTC is, for example, conducting outreach mission or income, or they are receiving incoming missions from abroad end users, they will use those technical sheets. So are very important to promote the new malting barley varieties, both internally, domestically, within Canada, as well as internationally. And they provide, they play an important role in the acceptance and adoption of the new varieties by the end user. However, this doesn't stop here. As I said, CMBTC conducts outreach missions, and with COVID, you can imagine that was not really possible, but they never stopped. They provided virtual webinars, and they continue to promote the new varieties. Besides those things, what CMBTC enables the end users. So here is the data that we generate. You don't have to believe us, even though CMBTC is a third party, is not biased, and there are no questions asked. However, CMBTC makes available about 20 kilograms of the new variety to the end users so they could test it themselves. Another possibility they offer is tailored pilot trials. What that means, the end users provide CMBTC with the processing protocols and their target specifications, and CMBTC will run, as you saw in the pilot malt and pilot brew facilities, the trial, the testing based on those specifications, and will help the end user to troubleshoot any potential issues that the new variety could pose in their malting and brewing recipes. Or other options are on-site production price. For this, CMBTC enables the end user to buy large amounts of the new varieties. What that means, about 500 to 1,000 tons. And they could run their own commercial trials. All this data is put together and in collaboration with BMBRI and the end user. They have an opportunity to share their experience, to say what they like, what they didn't like, and what is more important, they will be able to make projections for the demand for the new malting barley varieties. So switching or passing from one variety to another is not easy. It takes lots of time. This could span over a few years. And you've seen CDC Copeland is still a major dominant variety. However, the new varieties, malting barley varieties, are coming, as you will see in a graph that I will show you later. I promised to share some of the examples of the sensory measurements that CMBTC does. This is an example for AAC Metcalf, AAC Goldman, a new variety, versus AAC Metcalf. More than 35 flavors and aroma parameters are assessed. And CMBTC works for this purpose with the sensory evaluation panel. It's trained, a trained panel able to conduct this type of work. What else CMBTC decided to do in order to further support this transition and to speed up the transition from the old varieties to new varieties, because it's not only about the end user, it's also about the growers. So for that, starting with 2020, CMBTC began the Western Canadian Field Trials. This is somehow conducted as the shadow of the provincial or the regional variety trials. And it's grown at more, as you can see on this map, at more than 25 locations across the prairies. The results are provided to the end user as well as the growers. I think that before I will complete the reviewing what CMBTC does is the list, the recommended malting barley varieties list. This list provides producer with an indication of which malting barley varieties have the greatest potential for selection and marketing. The list is prepared. We talked earlier about all the testing that is done by CMBTC. All that testing, all that data collected helps CMBTC together with others to prepare and make the recommendation. As you see, besides the variety recommended, there are also information about the varieties in development. Those help to give a signal to the growers, to the end user about the upcoming varieties. The growers, if interested, they could contact the seed distributors and request some seeds for potential trials. So they could do on their part head-to-head comparison of the old varieties or the variety they were growing and the new variety. CMBTC, as I said, is also involved in research, and recently we just completed this year. There was on-farm project where the farmers across Manitoba had the possibility, without any charge, when it comes to seed, to grow the new varieties, and the variety that they grow usually in their farm, along with the Czech variety, head-to-head, and to see for themselves what those new varieties could bring to their farm. So I enjoy very much. I really appreciate CMBTC for making me part of that project, and I enjoyed very much going and talking to the barley growers. For a breeder, it's very important to stay in touch, to understand what are the needs, what our growers need. It's not easy to put together what the end user and what the farmers, but nevertheless, it was an excellent opportunity. As I mentioned earlier, these are few photos from the outreach or incoming missions that CMBTC hosted with all as part of their efforts to promote the new malting varieties. Before concluding our seminar, I just want to show where we are right now. I mentioned about CDC Copeland being the dominant variety, AC Synergy coming strong, and also AC Metcalf. Both CDC Copeland and AC Metcalf are in decline, and AC Connect and AC Synergy are coming as the new varieties. Also, CDC Bow, CDC Fraser, all those new varieties are slowly establishing on acres across Western Prairie. Where we are right now, September just ended. It was not an easy year. Last year, we were fighting drought. This year, at least in Manitoba, we had a very wet and cold spring. Some of the farmers were not able to seed. We had at our end, we had issues with seeding. Believe it or not, usually we seed middle of April, we seeded early June. This year, just to give you an idea, and I will stop complaining and whining about the weather because there's nothing that we could do about. On top of those things, during the summer, we had drought in some regions, also hail, with hail the size of the golf even bigger. So it was not easy, but at the end of September, I'm happy to see, based on the estimates made on the provincial crop reports, that the majority of the harvesting was done. When it comes to the projection of what will be available for the end user to select this year, it seems like I mentioned in the beginning that usually it's about 2 million, so it's close to 2.5 million. So we are right on, and there is a good potential for a good crop this year. I invite you to read later when the malting quality barley report will be available from the GRL site, so to see the whole story and picture of how 2022 crop season was for us. Before concluding, I want to thank you for your time. Thanks again, the organizer, for the excellent opportunity to talk about Canadian barley, and especially Canadian malting barley. And I think it couldn't have been a better timing, as yesterday we celebrating the Canadian Beer Day. So cheers to that. And it's always good to have something at the end of the work. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Ana. Does anybody have any questions? I think we've gone over a bit of time, but does anybody have a question or two? Okay, so here we go. Thanks for the presentation, Ana. It's clear there's quite a lot of effort in breeding hull-less barley for human food uses. How big is the market in Canada?
Could you please repeat? I'm sorry, I just have...
How big is the market for naked food barley in Canada?
So, as I said,
what percentage of the crop goes towards naked food?
So when we talk about malting, about hull-less barley, we look at about 3% of the acres in Western Canada. And the majority of the hull-less barley is grown in Manitoba when we talk about the hull-less barley for food. So it's a very small percentage. However, one might ask why we still put effort. Myself, Aaron, Raja, as you've seen, we still focus on hull-less barley for food. We feel that it's important. I could go on and on talking about the health benefits that hull-less for food barley has. I think the best advocate is Pat Casey. He stick at long for what the Halles for Food Barley has. There was a campaign, Go Barley, promoted by Alberta Barley. This happened around the time 2012, when a health claim was established for Halles for barley in Canada, where 3 grams of beta-glucan, barley beta-glucan, helps reduce cholesterol and improves heart health.
Thank
There
you.
is great potential. However, the acres are small.
Thank you. We're running out of time, so I've got one more question in the chat for you, Ana. Thanks for your talk. From Ian Mackay. Over time, in most of the programs, there seems to have been a change in emphasis from 6-row to 2-row barleys. Could you expand on the reason for this, please?
Yes, thank you. So there are several reasons. The shift was also from the end users being interested more in 2-row than in 6-row. But also 2-row, when I did mention during my presentation that Fusarium head blight is a problem of concern. And the 2-row varieties, they seem to have better Fusarium head blight resistance than the 6-row. Also, we could talk about the grain shape when we have 2-row. So there are more uniform, more plump than in case of 6-row. However, one could argue why. 6-row, for example, will be more of interest than 2-row due to high yield. However, with the work that my colleagues did in 2-row malting barley, for example, the yield gap between 6-row and 2-row was closed. Our 2-row malting barley varieties are high yielders, and like I said, the grain size and shape, which is an important factor for malting, malt house, they need uniform fluffy seeds. That is very important and is offered by those 2-row malting varieties. So yet the shift.
Okay, thank you. Listen, I guess our time is up. So I would just like to thank you once again, Ana, for a really detailed explanation of the malting barley and malting barley breeding programs in Canada. One thing I recognized from your presentation is that there seems to be an awful lot of agencies involved in recommending things, and there's a lot of steps to go through before you can, well, going from an original cross to actually getting something on the market seems exceptionally difficult, but that's just an observation. So listen, thanks again. Please join us again all in 2 weeks' time. We have another presentation. I can't remember who it's by now. Can you remember, Donna? No? Anyway, it doesn't matter. You'll be sent a link to the next presentation. Thanks all for joining us for Ana's talk, and we'll see you again later. Ana, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.